As I said earlier, don't get your hopes up about watching clips from the Rogan Bernie podcast. I'm not going to play clips. There's copyright issues with Rogan stuff. But the point of this stream is I want to go through the what appears to be the positive impact that Bernie had on Rogan's audience. So, there are people out there that will say, can't talk to Fox News, can't talk to anybody who is on the other side of the political spectrum, or if their audience is, because I don't know. Like I don't know what what the logic to their argument is. Now, if Bernie was going on somebody's podcast who, is some lesser known right winger, or even like Ben Shapiro's podcast, I would be wondering, hey, why are you doing this? Because in that sense, you are then legitimizing that person. So, like, I get it if it's a podcast you're giving attention to that shouldn't get attention, but Rogan already has a massive audience. I think it's the biggest podcast on the internet. Fox News already has a built-in audience. You can't just ignore that audience exists. But what you can do is challenge them. And look, one of Bernie's best moments, I think, so far in this campaign was his appearance on Fox News. Was there any downside to that at all? You saw the clips that came out of that, the people in the audience applauding. I mean, we're talking about somebody in Bernie Sanders who's able to connect to all kinds of people. Now, for people that had super chats in the previous streams, I will get to those as well. Don't worry. I just got to find them in my YouTube options, but they'll be there. But I'll get to all that stuff afterwards. I'll also try to engage the audience that aren't giving super chats. But let's get to this. Just setting up my chat window here. All right. Okay. You gonna work? It works. Look at that. So I'm gonna be down here, and I want to read through some of these comments. So let's take a look first at the podcast. This is here he is here. Again, I can't play clips, copyright issues, but I can show you a picture of him on the podcast. And right now this has over 6 million views, 6.5 million views. And it's been not even a week. It's been a few days since he was on the show. So it's getting a lot of attention. 254,000 likes. I've never seen anything like that on my channel. That's pretty crazy. But before I even get to the ones that were picked out, so this is Raphael. He cut some of the I forget who this guy is. I follow him, or I did follow. No, I don't follow him. I should. He does good stuff. But that's him, and he went through a lot of these comments and cut them out. And I mean, it seems like he gives you, since all the ones he posts here are positive, it seems like he gives you just sort of this, narrow snapshot of the many comments on a YouTube video that must mostly be terrible, right? But if you actually go to the channel or go to the page and read through them, I mean, it's crazy how many of these are positive. So this is someone who's just applauding Joe Rogan for having on. Why is it doing this? For having on, everybody from Bernie to Alex Jones. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily do that, but start going down. Look, like the first one here. I always thought Bernie was the crazy person trying to make everyone to make everything free. I feel kind of stupid now. Well, I owe my friend an apology. I trashed Bernie constantly because I thought he was radical. See, this is the effect that the mainstream press has, even on people that are active on YouTube. It bothers me because a lot of these people clearly don't think for themselves. I mean, that they're just now discovering that Bernie Sanders is a genuine person that actually wants to help people. It took you this long. Really, it took you 4 years to figure this out. But it does. These people are in their bubbles. So whether it's, through Fox News or Ben Shapiro or Crowder, whoever is telling them that Bernie's crazy, that's how they learn about Bernie Sanders. And they don't actually get to see him for who he is himself. They don't get to see him in a long format like this, in an hour discussion, just talking. So it really, I mean, this kind of format, this long format where you have, an hour to 3 hours to talk to somebody on a podcast, it really showcases who that person is. It's kind of hard to hide when there's no commercial breaks. There's an hour long discussion. It's hard to hide who you are. Now, a lot of politicians still are able to perform in that kind of scenario. And there are some ones that are better than others at doing that. But just watching Bernie, people in my chat know, you guys all know, he's a genuine person. And it's obvious when you see him. And these people are shocked by it because they didn't think that. They never, this is the benefit of going on Rogan's show, is you reach people that never would have considered you to be a serious candidate. But now that they are actually willing to give you a listen because you're on one of their favorite podcasts, all of a sudden you're now a serious option. So, as this guy was saying, he trashed Bernie constantly because he thought he was radical, thanks to fake news. My friend tried telling me. Now, look, before I keep going, I'm sure some of these are fake. It's hard to know, but you go through them. You go on any YouTube video, you'll see a lot of crap. On this one, it's shocking how many comments are positive. My friend tried telling me many times over to hear him out, but I was being defensive. This isn't radical, and I'm ashamed and almost feel like I've been taken advantage of. Get this man elected. Let me just like that one. So before I go through, but you can tell a lot of these are positive. Wasn't really into Bernie before this. Now I had a chance to hear him speak. I have to say, I really like what he stands for. Bravo, Joe. Thanks. But I want to go to some of the ones that were cut out here because Raphael went deep on into the comments, and I did not. So let's get a feel here for what some of these are. And by the way, just a reminder, I'll be taking super chats, and I'll also try and engage the chat as well. And if you want me to answer you or mention something, just at me in the chat, and I'll be able to see the highlight. Progressive voice. Let me see progressive voice. David, you're wrong. Joe converted Bernie into being an alt-righter. the funny, you're like, progressive voice is joking, obviously, but that's what some people that's how some people were reacting on Twitter. It was crazy. It was crazy to see people who are otherwise, I'm not even talking about the typical centrist people. I'm talking about people who, are largely progressive, maybe supported Bernie, maybe support Warren, maybe support other people. But these are, not the typical, standard moderate centrist that were saying this. I'm talking about people who would consider themselves to be on the left, thought it was a bad idea that Bernie went on the show. Well, let's see what some of the reaction was. Great conversation. Makes me realize how not radical Sanders is. This is a theme you will see throughout many of the comments if you go on there yourself and look. People are shocked that Bernie is not actually radical. Because he's not. He's just humane. He's just rational. Bernie, mental health should be a part of healthcare. Finally, I might be able to get help. It's like he's a real human. It's like he's a real human using his brain, not a puppet controlled by money. Yeah. He just makes sense to me, more so than any other candidate. Some of these may be existing supporters. This sounds like an existing supporter. I was on the fence on which Dem I was voting for until I watched this video. Decision made. Thanks, Joe, for asking great questions and giving Bernie time to answer thoroughly. What an eye-opening interview, and very well done. This is how long-form interviews should be done. I didn't know much about Bernie previous to listening to this episode, but I'm very impressed with him and his ideas. He knows we need immediate solutions, has ideas, and is open to the ideas of others, and most importantly, is more than willing to work with anyone who wants to get things done. Gained a lot of respect for him. Guess it helps that you don't have biased media outlets cherry-picking every word. Exactly. Good guy. Wow, I honestly was very unclear on his views until this. I'm impressed. Thank you for getting him on. Completely changed my perspective on Bernie. Just signed up to be a volunteer. And look, as he's saying, these aren't cherry-picked. You go to the page. It is crazy. I was shocked. I knew he would. I assumed he would have a positive impact because it's hard not to, as Bernie Sanders. I mean, the guy is a real person. Even if you don't agree with him, You can tell he's a genuine person and he believes what he's talking about. So I expected him to have a positive impact, but to see how many comments on this video are actually incredibly positive to me was shocking. Not only because it's YouTube, but also because it's Joe Rogan's podcast. All right. But I mean, I don't want to read these, all of them, but I could because there are so many. Okay. How about this? I'm gonna go to some super chats. I don't want to be reading through all these comments, but you get the idea. I'll go to some super chats, come back to this, and figure out if there are any negative comments on here.